When you grab a hold of me, tell me that I'll never be set free. 'Cause I'm a parasite. Creep and crawl, I step into the light. 2 pints of booze. Tell me, are you a bad fish too? Are you a bad fish too? Yeah, ain't got no money to spend. I wish this night would never end. Lord knows I'm weak. Won't somebody get me off of this reef? Baby, you're a big blue whale. Grab the reef when all the diving fails. I swim, but I wish I'd never learned. Water's too polluted with germs. The dock beats when it's 10 feet overhead. Grab the reef underneath my bed, Ain't got no quarrels with God. Ain't got no time to grow old. Lord knows I'm weak. Won't somebody get me off of this reef? What's up, y'all? Hope everybody's having a lovely, lovely Septuagesima Sunday. Let's get into it. Wimixon done of the agony and the sorrow of getting hot sauce in the junk. If anything, you should wash your hands before you go, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I wonder if Pink Egg said ever fucking experienced that firsthand. Oh, dang it, I already cursed. Oh, darn it. Oh, shoot. I'm working on it. But, don't get it twisted. Every woman will always end up bleeding more than any man. Okay, Mr. Warrior, Mr. Spartan. Every woman will always end up bleeding more than you. Every single one of them. So, don't get it twisted. Women are strong. Strong woman! I've been learning more about parasociality recently. It's a term invented in the 60s, if you don't know, to explain the phenomenology of movie stars and their fan clubs. Advertising sticks these stars deep into people's minds. But recently, streamers, deliberately or unconsciously, have been doing it with their own brands, like in their own controlled, individual decision-making marketing. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, a little bit of rain. We need that so bad. That's lovely. Dead by Daylight is a little game where people run around, activate generators. And it's funny because it's essentially a at best, mid-tier Warcraft 3 custom game. I swear I've seen like 4 or 5 different Dead by Daylight prototypes in Warcraft 3. Variety of different ways. Same general premise. You got one, usually the host. And then sometimes it's like 24 other players, trying to... what was it? It's not sheeps versus wolves because that's more of like team versus team, the destructive team versus the constructive team. But yeah, there's a bunch of them in Warcraft 3, and there's a bunch of fun Warcraft 3 games. The only issue, though, no matter what happens, Blizzard will never be able to resurrect Warcraft 3 because specifically, it's not like the boat is left. People would do it, although people don't have enough time and energy. Like they don't have as much. And like the output would be significantly stunted because of just the macro economy, the macro biome of everything being absolutely dog shit everywhere. In general, compared to how it was when Warcraft 3 first launched. But another thing, it will copyright every single thing that's made in their custom games. And people don't want to do that. They feel really, for some reason, Blizzard feels entitled to Defense of the Ancients, which turned into League of Legends, which turned into a whole, generational flagship game. It's just like those are just the kids that grew up playing Warcraft 3, you know. I'm sure some of them just like the highly autistic mechanics of it, but like the reason why it's so simplistic and the reason why it's like that is because it's based off of something that's very, very easy to recreate. You're not entitled to that at the end of the day. Edging Ring, Elden Ring does have exquisite modeling, but the world looks too Final Fantasy core now. So I always love the world of Dark Souls 2 the most. Just all these different worlds stuck together, lovingly painted, lovingly crafted. Well, Mama's kitchen. And something I would talking about in the last couple episodes, you know, I'll always get hyperfixated on something for like 5 to 10 episodes and then move on to the next hyperfixation. That's actually how you healthily do it, by the way. Dark Souls has amazing weapons mechanics. So like you play the game with a different weapon, you're replaying the game, completely different experience, completely different timing, completely different brain activation. And that really goes against the grain of the 3. Like, it's kind of how it is in the Elder Scrolls, but I also see this as what happened with RuneScape, where they took the varieties of different weapons and they, like, smashed it into this triangle system. Really don't like the triangle system. Oh, the archer beats the mage, and the mage beats the warrior, and the warrior beats the archer, and the archer beats the mage. The only time I've actually really liked that triangle system was in that Pokemon fighting game, where you only had like 20 characters, and it was like an arena fighter, and it had like 3D mechanics and stuff. I played the lowest tier character, like I tend to do in fighting games. At the time, what's the crystal dog? You know the dog from Crystal. Everybody knows this, but I don't remember. You know the one. That's the one I played. The Aurora dog. Cool Pokemon. Suicune. Suicune, apparently literally named for suicide. Okay, Japan. Okay. Okay. We love you guys. Please don't. Step away back from that ledge, my son, and I would understand. Seriously, Japan, we love you. There are so many beautiful, gorgeous animals out there. Many of them are disappearing due to habitat loss. There should be more video games incorporating all the fish, birds, and mammals, all the beautiful, beautiful fish, birds, and mammals, and you see a lot of them and people love them. And in fact, going back to RuneScape had early simulated nature, lovingly crafted, a European robin put into the sound files is probably something that gave them like a 20% boost in, you'd call it sales, but just in general players and playing. And it's gorgeous. Like the inexhaustible nature that never really disappears. And where people like to hang out with the beautiful little simulated architecture and how old it is. Like, it really is, that's the heart and soul of fantasy, is being able to incorporate beautiful nature, beautiful music, because RuneScape has such beautiful music. Such beautiful music. In fact, one of the only times that I ever had a good conversation with a guy called Sicko Hunter, or was it Sicko? Yeah, Sicko Hunter, who is like a legacy user, but like he's God, man, he's like a soy jack. But I'm not gonna like, that's not an accurate description of him, but he's just like so. I don't like using terms like NPC. Those are terms of the enemy. Terms like NPC, terms like wagey, those are terms of the enemy. But like, Sicko Hunter is like legitimately an NPC. And like, the next day, you know, he was back to being his shitty old self, but we had a really nice conversation about RuneScape music one night. That was fun. Oh well. There's not a lot that I really miss out of 2023 and onward Kiwi Farms. You know, I really do feel like I was there during some of the nicest times for me. And it's weird because you see Null like kicking out a lot of these hyper-aggressive people back in 2020. So the people from like the first Trump years that became super emboldened, and if you remember this, there were Trump supporters back in this first term that were literally like, we're gonna shoot you all, just you wait. And like, those are the same exact people that I think turned into a lot of these you know, you know, these freaks that are participating in like, and have been for like 3 or 4 years now, just obliteration and destruction of everything in the that they can touch with their grubby little fingers and their grubby little tools. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. It's the people that were like bluffing, like they were about to shoot everybody, and then ended up getting like slapped down by the political structure, because it is a political structure. Whether you not want to complain about the democratic process or not, that's the political structure. That's what it does. Slap those people down who are so emboldened, and that's where you get a lot of the energy behind January 6th, right? Because like all the people in the back, we were watching this. All the people in the back were like just kind of like wandering around, chilling, waiting for the guys up front who were leading the charge, and those people were talked to by the feds, a lot of which were on USAID, a lot of which were like the people who got groomed into shooting up their schools, straight up in connection with various federal agencies and groups, and or at least had informants and snitches, high levels of command. And those people were like charging into on gunfire. Like those people had like this like pagan religion associated with Trump, and you got to look out because like I literally watched. Let's not get into that. The point was I watched in TV Farm's time this little separation for intelligence after the COVID lockdowns, and I am a specialist in isolation. Whenever I play video games, I always play by myself. I've literally never played Dark Souls online. I have actually a little bit, but I've never played most RPGs online. I've never played most games online. I don't tend to roll with other people. I roll alone, and I don't consider myself a real G. It's just being kind of a hybrid of the boomer and the millennial generations, being kind of a hybrid of North Carolina and Florida, being a hybrid of Protestantism and Catholicism. It's never given me like a solid place that I can attain to, so I just made it on my own. Like I taught myself cello for like 5 years before I got an actual teacher. It's not to put down the people at the school, but they didn't have enough time. Just had to knock it out on myself, and training myself in that way is the methodology behind me. And I was very, very good during the COVID lockdowns at comforting people and helping people and enlightening people. And I was the nurse. People would come to me if they were sick, and well, if they complained about being sick, I would help them. This is essentially, if anybody was talking about how sick they were, or what particular type of sickness, I would ask. I would go to them, not they would come to me. Let's correct the record on that. I would intervene and look stuff up very aggressively with the tools that I had developed at the time, and I would give people lots of good advice. This is the biggest point of pride for me in the Kiwi Farms is not the fact that Null listened to me a few times and parroted some of the stuff that I said on his podcast, which he did like over a dozen times, but it's the fact that I helped so many people by giving them health advice. That's my point of pride. People got it so twisted, but that's okay, you know? At the end of the day, there are people twisting it who know what they did. And those people will remember what they did for the rest of their lives. And the pride of conquest is ashes in the mouth. Ashes in the mouth. I could be called a Mustang. Color is black and gold, but I am not defined by where I've been. I'm defined by who I've helped. I'm glad my life has been bent towards genuine service. Like any person, like I actually wanted to be a medic when I was younger, before I did research and learned what Obama was doing, and then went, well, one would call it under the table, essentially, so that I wouldn't participate. I can say that now, but let's not go into that because I don't want people prying into that. I know there's some people out there that hate me for whatever reason, and they would try to 100%. Just as there are people out there that I think it's a like the brain damage terror strodi sort of thing where you like legitimately will call Wendy's and harass them until they fire King Cobra JFS because you have nothing better to do in your life. And those people are out there. Those people are constantly hunting. I'm not saying that's most people. It's a very few minority. But what I've calculated is that it takes about one out of like 2,000. And that's all you really need, because they have tools and they can be protected by systems, funded and helped by systems in order to spoil that entire bunch. And if they're charismatic enough, they'll get away with it for a while. If they're intelligent enough, they'll avoid the opportunities where people rose up against them. And if they're persistent enough, they can tend to, like, it took them 2 years to get me off the website. They were working on that for 2 years. 2 years. It's like 1 year and 3/4 before it took off. But eventually the persistency and the just constant, I guess associating me with the vibe shift on the website, that's eventually what took me down. So, oh well, it's fine. Next chapter, moving on. Before there were lolcows, there were COWs. It's a type of concept art called Creatures of the Week. It was ran through weekly contests where people were given a prompt by the moderators on the forum that used to exist that I can't find anymore, and they made these beautiful, beautiful custom creations with lore and everything. And those were ranked on a competition system, and I'm not sure if there were prizes or payouts or anything like that, but it was so fun. It was my favorite thing to do when I was living up in North Dakota, because I only had 2G internet, so forums were, and I didn't know about the kiwi farms yet. Forums were the way to go, and Creature of the Week forums. That's where I was. I hope somebody can find the archives for that and look at what I'm talking about, because there's just so much cool stuff there. Like, genuinely, so much cool stuff. All lovingly handcrafted by people. None of it crafted through AI or any of that slop. Of course, digitally assisted in this way or that. But, like, AI can't make anything like a person who knows their tools lovingly crafting it. AI is literally, like, spitting into a cup and then, like, throwing it at a piece of paper and then calling that art. That's essentially what AI is. And AI is more of a monkeys on typewriters deal. I'm glad people are coming around to the fact that it is not what it seems. It's not intelligence. The intelligent part of AI is a misnomer, and it's meant to mislead and deceive people into thinking that it's something that it's not. And people are looking at AI and they're realizing how much smarter they are than they thought. They're realizing how much smarter other people are than they thought. And this is a big thing. This is a thing that we need to seize upon, is the realization that human beings are always going to be worth more than the tools that human beings make. Always, always, always. And it's really, really evil that racist people can work African children to death in emerald mines. It's really evil, and those people should feel ashamed for themselves, and they will feel ashamed for themselves. They will 100% feel ashamed for themselves. You cannot be a holder of the whip without also feeling the lash. Sorry, it is what it is. I also hope that cat people and dog people can learn to love each other. No more little brother wars. Come on, guys, bring it in. Bring it in. Researching Steve King from Iowa and finding out that apparently white supremacists want to legalize tail docking. So tail docking and ear cropping are something where people take dogs designated for fighting and they eliminate parts of their body that the dog could seize on and use to pacify them. It's one of the same reasons why fighters never have long hair. Because you can grab the hair. You grab the ears, you can grab the tail, you rip it off, and then you get in a standoff and they bleed out slowly and they get weaker, and et cetera, et cetera. So they crop the ears, which is so evil. So unbelievably evil. I personally, if I knew somebody that cropped dogs' ears as like a living, I would lose no sleep in taking a cattle bolt gun up to their forehead, pulling the trigger, and watching them just crumple. I would lose no sleep about it. I'd probably laugh. Call me whatever you want. But if you can do that to a dog, to a puppy usually, you're a sick, sick freak. And a lot of those people have been flooding into my state recently. So I'm just going to have to keep on speaking on it because I can't get myself in trouble. You feel me? Oh, gosh. You do it the wrong way, you're just cutting a head off of a hydra and watching two regrow in its place. Martyred, emboldened. Well, something that Israel's about to FAFO about. I really hate that term, by the way. Not a fan of FAFO. Please find something a little bit less cowardly and stupid, because I love finding out. And I'm very curious. And if you give me a challenge like that, I will indeed try to find a way to make you think that let's not worry about it. However, I am worried about Steve King trying to re-legalize, because it was illegalized and he's trying to re-legalize tail docking, which is where you cut the tail off of a dog. And he's like the single most white supremacist politician in the entire country. It's pretty messed up, in my opinion. I think it goes back to dogfighting. I think it goes back to sicking dogs on people. It goes back to all that sick thing. And you want to know where your aggressive pit bulls come from, Null, other people, then you got to look at your own camp. You got to actually take a good, hard magnifying glass look at it and find out that these genuine, meaning well hippies are not your enemies. Anybody who wants to maintain the ground that you walk on is not your enemy. That's not to say anything about greenwashing liberals, though, let me tell you that. And a lot of people are going to find out the hard way when they had environmentalist and protectionist and love as their driving political ideology, and they end up literally watching them paying into, donating, working for systems that hurt it. Not me. I've only helped little tiny politicians that ended up being like third rail sort of politicians, but you'll see a lot of young people who went to college usually, got a little liberal arts degree, and they found out the hard way, and that's a very sad thing. Swinging Zoomers. Gooning Zoomers. It's so sad, dude. Moomers, we just want to sneed. We just want to sneed. We just want to seed and feed. Swinging and immorality pair pretty well because one spouse cannot hold them accountable. It's like outsourced, essentially. Like the ability to withhold sex is outsourced. Is eliminated, and the aggression, sexual aggression that one has to usually control and curtail is outsourced to young, gullible people. I've never known a lot of people that were into swinging, except for one mentally ill girl that went by like the unicorn sort of title, and ooh, gosh, she probably has. She probably got some bad memories from that, man. Oh, God. Definitely not worth it. Definitely not worth it. If somebody asks you, hey, at the pickleball court, hey, you want to swing? No. That's all you got to say. No, thank you. Now watch this drive. Oh, wait, that's not pickleball. That's golf. A real sport. Anyways. Boomers, they're a good generation. For instance, boomer bikers, Toys for Tots, occasional heroics, great vibes. Gen X bikers, entitled, annoying, aggressive for no reason, like your typical coward. Racing around making noise late at night. Absolutely zero empathy for other people. And if their empathy is at all extended, it's extended in a form of sadism, where they're actually getting off on somebody else suffering, which takes an empathetical projection as well. You don't actually feel what they're feeling, and you're not actually genuinely, pragmatically being uplifted by them being lifted down in that moment at all. Rising tide actually lifts all ships. So if you help somebody and they help you back, that's lifting people up. That's lifting yourself up. But it's actually an inverted, weaponized form, reverse engineered form of empathy to own the libs, trigger the libs, own the conservatives, trigger the conservatives. You know, you see it a lot in transsexual communities where they're trying to genuinely trigger conservatives with their drag queen story hour stuff. You see it on the right, this pendulum swing. And ultimately, if you pride yourself on helping people, being a good mentor, being a good friend, you will end up being much, much more uplifted. And instead of ashes in your mouth, you'll have genuine goodness in your life. The choice is yours. You have free will. Don't let anybody ever convince you that you do not have free will. But there are stumbling stones out there. And the noble man is the man who has removed the stumbling stone, not just ran over it and allowed the person behind him to stumble over it. That's nobility. That's heroics. That's morality. That's what it means to be truly based. There are a few good sexers orbiting around the core of garbage, but I'd say Generation X is probably the only generation in America that's mostly bad. So I'd say 70-75% bad. Whereas the boomers are like, I'd say 50-50. And the millennials, surprisingly, they're like 40-60. And you know what? The kids are all right. Gen Z, they're way smarter and way more capable and nicer than you would expect. And I'd say that's more of a 25-75 sort of deal. So yeah, you can kind of see that. Boomers are kind of in the middle. You kind of see that. Xers, man, real entitled, real stupid. Gotta cut that out. Please, don't get hard locked in your title. You know, you are who you help. And you are who you put yourself around, too. So keep in mind that. We cannot help, no matter how much we pride ourselves in our lack of plagiarism, our lack, our embellishment and creativity. We always are copying other people, whether it's methods or tones in our voices. And it's deeply psychological to copy the people that you find comfortable, that you're comfortable with, that you find to be a member of your tribe, if you will. Going back to that real deep instinct that's in all of us, if our brains are functioning properly, you know. Got a little moth friend. Wish I could catch him and leave him outside, but all the moths are always so much harder to catch than anything else because they smash so easily. Oh well. If anything, the boomers are kind of crap because they raised a generation that think that they inherited hard times, but they're a generation of entitlement that have created the hard times that you're seeing in the last like decade or so, decade and a half or so. You're seeing the hard times. And it did not pop off when Gen X was young. They grew up in extreme wealth and extreme power and extreme security. A lot of Gen Xers grew up in a time where America wasn't waging war with 4 or 8 different countries like millennials grew up under. You know, it's not something to dwell on. Low IQ stuff is also insanely expensive. It's wild. And that's not just applying things to like racing and like crashing cars and how much that costs to do nothing and accomplish nothing. It's insanely expensive to be poor. You rack up so many bills and you rack up bad interest rates and you rack up health problems and you get exposed to scams. And the lowering IQ makes you more susceptible to health problems and scams. And it's a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle. That's why a lot of politicians, they venerate and deliberately court after the middle class. As to what degree there is one. It's because those are the people that actually are genuinely involved in politics because they view things in the long term. They have the time, they have the money, they have the energy. And it's not because usually not because they're scamming other people, but recently with Gen X, you see a lot of the Gen Xers are the ones that have managed to like scam other people's inheritance out of the boomers and the remaining wealth there. Scam that, become like put a 400-500% markup, and then, you know, use to take that money, God bless them, and try to irk out like an existence. But, yeah, gosh, you got to look at the macro economy because if people are drowning, you're not going to have anybody to sell to. You're not going to have workers. Your workers are good. Well, you will have workers, but their workers are going to be lower quality, and they're not going to produce as good stuff, and they're not going to have as much energy. It is what it is, man. You gotta look on that entire system. High IQ car? Subaru, for sure. Lowest. Anything Dodge, dude. But I kind of like Chrysler. I kind of like Dodge. You know I like Jeep. Even though there's some insane assholes driving Jeeps. Ram is poopy. Poopy. Literally, you see most of the assholes on the road. Most of the entitled pricks on the road. Driving jacked up. White Supernova light swapped. No muffler. Stupid ass trucks like that, man. And it's super sad to see what Ram has actually done to the overall truck market, because Nissan started outsourcing a lot of their production to Ram. And now you see these retarded Nissans popping up all over the place. God, man. Stop falling for the meme. Or just, like, you know, be a man and get a Hummer or something. I'm just saying, like, this isn't the first time this has happened. And you should just go buy a limo or something. If you really want to be that stupid. How is it a pickup truck if it's lifted too high? You can't use the bed. You see Dodge pumping a lot of ads out. They're trying to scam some of the last rubes for cash. A lot of Dodge Ram advertising. And Honda owners, though, they're special. They're the special ones. You see a lot of Honda owners doing special stuff. But literally, I've never had a problem with a Subaru on the road. Ever, ever, ever. It's so great. Whenever you see a Subaru, you're just like, that's my boy. But, like, I got, you know, you develop driving friends when you're on the road. And a lot of bikers employ the same method that I do, where they don't speed up to the red light and then slam on their brakes. The momentum wouldn't be good for them. And so, like, if I'm driving around bikes that aren't Rice Rocket shitheads, worst people on the road, worse than any Ram owner, because at least they're doing something. You know the Ram owner's doing something. The Rice Rockets, especially when they're ganged up in those little cliques, oh my god, dude, you just want to beep, 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 beep. You just, yeah, ugh. Can't say anymore. The only RAM I want to see is that RAM in my computer, man. That's it, baby. That's all. John Bolton is pissing his pant over peace in Ukraine right now. Get wrecked, wannabe warlord wastrel. Get out of here. Out. After studies, I've concluded my question. Slavs are a significantly more recent race in the European spectrum. So what you got is the whole 3 cows wearing a trench coat Europa thing is inadequate. What you got is Lithuanians, who are as close to Indo-Europeans as you can get. And essentially all of northern Ukraine and Belarus used to be Lithuania. Now they've been reduced to a rump state. Very sad. Hate to see it. Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, absolute powerhouse in medieval history, late medieval history. I guess I call that primeval history. Or, no, that's way back when. Primeval is way back before civilization. Medieval history. Let's not call it the Dark Age, because that's stupid, dumb. We're in the Dark Age right now, baby. The Celtic people, the Celts, developed first and combined with a lot of Neanderthal and Olgadin, or Orcam, in Ireland as they moved westward. And the Germans seemingly developed in a vacuum of extreme weather up north. They have some Uralic blood. And if you wonder what Uralic blood looks like, there is a Russian politician called Valuev, who just recently got banned from Azerbaijan. He has, like, pure Uralic phenotype. And it kind of checks out, because if you know about, it's now St. Petersburg, but it used to be called something way back when. The Rus was originally developed by Germans. And this is exactly what going into, like, literally, like, the Slavic language, the Cyrillic alphabet. It's all much, much, much older than all of these ancient languages. So the whole hypothesis that I've cooked up is the Slavs developed much later as a continuous admixture flowed from the east. And of course, I love my Bohemians, I love my Poles. Don't get it twisted. But it's especially after the Huns, and then even more so under the Mongols. Just push. And that explains a lot. Because in Germany, it's basically just one gigantic melting pot. In France, you have what's called the Octagon. You have the Danube, you have the Alps, you have the Gulf of Lyon, you have the Pyrenees, then you have the Bay of Biscay, and then you got the Norman coast. And you got this perfectly defined border. In Germany, if you look at it, there's a big hill around Bohemia that makes it Bohemia, but everything else is like flatland forests, and you could go through those at any time. So like the Picardy down to the Burgundians, down to the Provencians, those are like, that's the border for what would be considered Celtic lands, Celtic people. And then you get tons of Germans like flooding in through the Burgundians, through the Danish and the Vikings. Although the Swabians of Tyrol and Austria, Tyrol is like Western Austria, those are a very heavily Celtic admixture people. Swiss, also strongly Celtic. I'm sorry if that bugs you, that I keep switching back and forth between the slippery sea and the regular sea and the Germanic sea. It's hard for me, you know. In my blood, I am also a Celtic Germanic hybrid. Oh, well. Yeah, that's that. Much love to my Slavs, but you can totally see how they're more pragmatic and recent race, if you will. Culture cluster is a better way of saying that. Well, let's wrap it up. I think a future America where we bring back beautiful, flowing, elegant fashion that's affordable instead of hyper-specialized, it's a tremendously better future than alpha AI phone, blobject, blinding white light, and unnecessarily loud, unnecessarily powerful vehicles and stuff that goes nowhere. It's just going nowhere, doing nothing of import, making the world tremendously worse, scaring all the animals, preventing animals from breeding and surviving properly for a variety of different ways. You see the same exact people who love gigantic SUVs and trucks deliberately hitting animals on the road. Not even, but like tested deliberately. Not even accidental, deliberately hitting animals on the road. And we're encouraging this this culture. Like, I used to like to drive when I was younger, just as casual, just driving around for no reason. And I always like driving around when I'm sad. But you should be focusing on, like, what you can do for other people, and driving around ain't it, son. As I said, you're going to remember what you did for other people at the end of the day. The end of all things, everything else, ash in the mouth. Well, cheers, y'all.